Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. Today I just wanted to show you the process of me starting some sourdough starter and then how I baked bread with it. So I got my sourdough starter from Cultures for Health, and I'll put a link down below so you can get one if you want to as well. And it comes with instructions for how to start the starter. And basically at first, for the first like almost 2 weeks, you're just feeding it gradually each day a little bit more, and then you have to discard a little bit of it. That way it doesn't get too crazy big, and you're just going to continue doing that for about 2 weeks. Once your starter has been fed for that 2-week period, or it's about 12 days, then you'll actually be ready to start baking with it. And so that's what I did. I went ahead and I fed it every day according to the instructions that came with the starter. And when it was ready to start actually using, I baked some bread with it, and I will show you how to do that because it was really exciting. It actually worked really well and it turned out great, so I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so I started this sourdough 13 days ago, and this is where we are now. And today I'm going to bake a couple loaves of bread with it, or I'm just gonna bake 1 loaf of bread with it today. I actually baked 2 loaves with it yesterday, and it turned out really good, so I'm ready to show you how to do it. So the recipe calls for 4 cups of flour. So there's our flour, and then I have to put 4 tablespoons of softened butter in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It says to cut it into cubes, but this is really soft, so I think it'll be all right. I need a tablespoon of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Okay, so now we're gonna put the paddle attachment on the mixer and mix these together. Okay, I think that's good. I gotta wash my hands now. I'm using the sourdough starter that I've been starting for the last 13 days. And it is nice and bubbly because I fed it today. I didn't discard from it, and instead I just fed it, so it's like nice and bubbly. So the recipe that I'm using, and I will also link this recipe down in the description, it says to use a 1/4 cup of sourdough starter for just one loaf of bread, but it also says if it's not warm enough, or if you're concerned about if it'll rise good enough or not, you can use like twice that much. So I'm doing twice the amount. I'm doing 1/2 cup of starter just to be safe. So I'm cleaning the lid off because it gets a little funky after I pour it. But I might be making another recipe with this later, so I still have quite a bit left. But I'm just gonna use that in a little bit, so I'm not worried about discarding or anything with it right now. I'm still learning about like when I need to discard, when I need to not discard, but it seems like I don't want to run out whenever I make something, so I'm just not discarding on the days that I'm actually baking with it. And so far it's working pretty good. Now I'm gonna add a cup of warm water, and it's just like bath water warm. I'm gonna pour that in. And now I'm gonna turn on the mixer, and you might wanna back up a little bit because it gets a little crazy. Or at least it did before. Okay. And now we're gonna take it out and just kind of mush it around I'm gonna mush it around with my hands until it feels like it's all combined. And then we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes before we do the longer kneading process. So I I have just like mushed it around until the flour feels like it's pretty good. This is what I did last time and it worked fine, so that's what I'm doing. Now I'm gonna let this sit in this bowl for 30 minutes. I'm gonna put some plastic wrap on top and then we're gonna knead it after that. Okay, so now it's sat for 30 minutes and it looks like this. And it smells really good at this point. So now I'm gonna put the dough hook on my mixer and I'm going to knead the dough in my mixer for 6 to 8 minutes. Alright, I just got done kneading it for about 6 or 7 minutes. And I'll show you what it's looking like now. Here's how it looks now, and it's like super duper soft and smooth and really, really nice. So what I'm gonna do with it now is I'm just gonna stick it back in the bowl and I'm gonna let it sit overnight to do the bulk rise. Alright, so I'm just sticking it back in the bowl I was mixing it in, and I'm going to cover it back up with plastic wrap. And we're going to leave this in the bowl on the, I'm going to put it up by the stove because it's a little bit warmer over there. But just in a warm spot in your kitchen, and you're going to let it sit overnight. And you want it to sit for somewhere between 10 and 12 hours. So I'm just going to stick it over on the stove until tomorrow, and you want it to be doubled in size. Okay, so the dough has sat overnight. It has been actually more like 13 hours now, and here's how it looks now. It's at least twice as big. So now what we have to do is flour the surface of the counter and flatten the dough out and kind of shape it into a loaf. And then we're gonna let it sit for like 5 or 10 minutes to relax a little bit. And then we're gonna put it in a buttered dish and let it rise a little bit more. I'm gonna flatten it. Then I'm gonna kind of roll it up into a I need this to fit in a 9x5 bread pan, so I'm trying to kind of make it that size-ish. It's gonna get bigger. I think that looks pretty good. Brush off the excess flour. Okay, so now it's gonna sit here for 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm gonna butter the bread pan while I'm waiting, and then we will do the next step. So now I'm just gonna gently like tuck the dough under a little bit to tighten up the outside of the dough a little bit. And now I'm gonna transfer it into this very well buttered bread dish. And I'm using glass because I saw somewhere someone said that it's better to use glass with sourdough than metal. I don't know if this is true. I will let you know if I find out more information about that, but you might want to use glass if that is true. Okay. Tuck it down in there all nice and cozy. We're gonna take a piece of plastic wrap and I'm gonna put butter on it. That way when you go to peel off the plastic wrap, it won't deflate your bread because the sourdough is kind of delicate. All right, so I'm gonna put it buttered side down on top. Try to get it lined up. There we go. And we're gonna leave this to rise for 1.5 to 2 hours. And when it gets about 1 inch above the pan, then we will be ready to put it in the oven. Okay, it has been longer than 2 hours. It's been like 3 or 4 hours. But we made donuts.
They're amazing.
And that took a minute. And I'll link to the video down below if you want to see that on Mike's channel. What's it called? Mike's Simple Selections.
Sorry, I forgot what it was called already.
That's okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk.
He ate a lot of donuts, so my brain's fried. Anyway, so I'm just peeling the plastic wrap off. Here's how it looks. You can tell the butter made it so it didn't deflate when I pulled the plastic wrap off. And now what I've done, I preheated the oven to 500 degrees. Then I'm gonna immediately turn it down to 375 and bake it for 45 to 50 minutes. And I'm putting it in the middle of my oven, right in the middle rack. So you put it down to 375. There we go. And I'm gonna set the timer for 45 minutes. There we go. And I think that putting it in at 500 and then turning it down makes it like rise more or something. I'm not an expert on that, but that's what I think it does. It worked really good the first time I did it, so I'm doing it again. And I will show you how it looks when it comes out. Okay, so I just got it out of the oven. I put some butter on the top, and now I'm gonna just let it cool in the pan for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, I'm going to turn it out of the bread pan and let it cool on the counter until it's totally cool, and then it'll be ready to slice. Here I'm slicing a piece of our sourdough bread, and it turned out really good. This is the third time I've baked it with this sourdough starter, and it's turned out consistently good every time. So I definitely recommend checking out that type of sourdough starter. I made more of like a sandwich loaf, but of course you can also do like an artisan style bread with this, and it would be really delicious. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.